Three, two, one. Hello, hello, and
Hello, everybody.
welcome. Welcome to our Mindful Leadership podcast with the fantastic Natasha Rocha. Hello, Natasha.
Hello, everybody. Hi, John.
Hi. And I was just saying before we started today, I was so excited about today's podcast recording. And then I reflected also on my previous career and the times that um I was unhappy doing that in comparison to this happiness. And Natasha was explaining that, hey, you've got a lot. Did you learn lots? Like, what did the experience teach us? Like, yes, it was a perfect experience in that software engineering and artificial intelligence career to grow. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. And welcome to our
Absolutely.
new uh listeners and watchers. We'd achieved our first 100 downloads last month.
Yay. That's
Um,
exciting.
and I was watching like a property show last night with my wife, and the it was in there's a family looking at places in Hong Kong, and it's like, hey, we were in the top, what was it, 100 and something, or top
Yeah,
100 podcasts in Hong Kong. It's like we could go there, I'd be famous.
true. True. I love that idea.
But yeah, lots of fun, and in all seriousness, you know, when you're starting something, it's like celebrating every step is so
Mhm.
important because you can't like it's not the way happiness works. Like I'm not going to celebrate my happiness until I'm really, really happy. Um, and today I was going to do a quick introduction for us both, and just to explain a little bit about the podcast. But today we're going to talk about our flexibility and agile in our schedules and the way that we work and the way we live. And
Mhm.
we're, yeah, excited to share our examples, our experiences, and also some ideas for people to think about and reflect on and take away themselves. And it's my turn for the mindful um, meditation at the end.
Beautiful.
Um, so yeah, I think the as we set out, when did we start out? May, April, May time. We started doing this
Mhm.
this podcast, and the idea is that we want to really help a world that is struggling across every area of the planet with things like stress, anxiety, and burnout, and achieving like your dream life as like a holistic thing and your dream world, and within that things like your dream business, your dream career. And we've had a whole series of guests on from quite a broad range of different industries. And what I find so funny is that everyone is really, it's almost like we're talking to the same people. It wouldn't matter what industry they were in. So we've had help me here, Natasha. We've had
Well,
podcasters, we've had people, holistic
podcasters. Yeah.
practitioners, um, we've had people who are motivational and speakers, and
Mhm.
a spy,
We had a
and
spy, which was awesome. Uh, and he also runs a risk management company as well. So it's like, yeah, from everybody that is starting out on their journey, whether they've pivoted and shifted careers or are running big global companies. So it's actually been really incredible to see the different minds, the different perspectives that have actually stepped in and spoken to us and given us their experience, which is absolutely brilliant.
fabulous. And I feel one thing I really love about doing this podcast is it's very grounded. So I always come away feeling really,
Mhm.
really excited. And I feel like so much of our work, because for those of you that know Natasha and I from our other aspects of our work, including things like Akashic Records and coaching people and quantum healing and our
Mhm.
psychic work, it's like it's fantastic work, and I love it. It's just that there's what I feel like gain and that I help give to others through this podcast is like that grounded aspect. Like, so what does all that other stuff that we're learning in the ether mean in day-to-day reality as a human? How do you get on as a wage earner, as a parent, as someone that's trying to help others and help this planet? And it's a lot of fun, right? It's hard being human in today's chaotic world.
I think the other aspect of this is that the psychic aspect of us is like I've definitely been getting the message that the way industry works now is about to change, is about looking at really bringing in that work-life balance, because luckily COVID showed us is that we didn't have that work-life balance to a lot of us. And I think a lot of companies, and I started noticing mostly in tech, that they have really started to build in a mindfulness, a self-care aspect, which is important. And I love that. And I love that this podcast is hopefully there to support those within that change of mindset, because we've both been through that, completely moving from a very corporate career to more of a flexible career. And yeah, there were a lot of things that came up for me where I was like, this is the mode of thinking. Why isn't it working? But that's because we're changing our perspectives, we're changing our viewpoints, and we're changing in the way we work in life and in business as we become more awake and more aware and more conscious of our thoughts, our words, our actions, the way we do business, and the way we do life as well. So that's what I'm absolutely enjoying about this journey, because it's actually showing us people from all walks of life. There's that same basis of foundation of, and it's not necessarily like, I mean, balance for me is a point of completion and integration before we move into that next spiral of change, and adapting to that as we learn and grow and expand into this next phase that we're moving into. And I see that a lot of the people we've spoken to have this urge to do better, live better, more consciously, within themselves and within their teams and their businesses, which is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah, it's so fabulous. Did you know that the light, you see the light to your left, is it? And
Yeah, it's
every
the
time you
sun.
say, yeah, every time you say something like, the world is changing and we're becoming more conscious, it just gets brighter and the rainbow colors are stronger. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Um, celebrating that. And yeah, I feel that at the very heart of these changes that we're seeing in the world are also changes that are maybe unseen, especially if you're sat in a company. In fact, I must admit, I was like unaware until quite recently that it's not just the people inside of companies that are changing, it's the world outside, it's your customers
Hmm.
too. Um,
Absolutely.
and I found my customers recently telling me what they saw for me like in the coming weeks and months. And it's maybe naive of me to think that they wouldn't see that, especially in the nature of the work I do.
Yeah.
Attracts a lot of people that do have like they're more sensitive to, potential futures and seeing, witnessing the growth within someone. Um, so let's talk about scheduling and some of the I guess maybe we should start with like the, your whole life, right? Because business is just one small, or okay, it's not small. It's a big part of many people's uh lives, but perhaps it should become a little bit smaller. And I could start with some of my big challenges.
Hmm.
The Some of the first challenges I had in my previous career, and I can, share before and after
Hmm.
as well. Uh, well, a fully booked calendar, so I would
Yes.
have Monday to Fridays, and I had a boundary which was don't work weekends, but that took me almost like, 20 years to actually enforce. And then I thought, actually,
Hmm.
I can't really survive at all if I work weekends. So just Monday
Yeah.
to Friday. And then I would start at about 9 a.m. and my last company was an American owned company, so it's like they wouldn't wake up until, at the very earliest, even if their work-life balance was terrible, they wouldn't be awake by like 10 or 11 a.m. your time. But I'd work on till 7 would be my about 9 to 7 would be my typical day. What that day had become was there's a few things that I thought were great superpowers that were really eroding my schedule. Um,
Hmm.
and one was I believe that for some time that back-to-back meetings was a good thing. And that's literally like I would take a lunch break, but I would just work back to back. Often on conference calls, even if I was in the office, I would be on call, sometimes even with people in the same building. And then I would sometimes not go to the toilet for like several meetings when I probably should have. And that was like a, you know, if my body wasn't saying, "Hey John, like you're human," I thought
Hmm.
that's a kind of scary reflection. Um, and then I also learned to what I believe to an extent is multitasking. And
Hmm.
during the course of learning how to, because we had to type we had to type interview, transcribe interviews as best we could when we interviewed people and interviewed hundreds of people. I learned how to transcribe an entire interview and write up my summary in the hour that I interviewed someone. And that arguably bad habit created this machine of me, which meant that I could go into meetings and be there very present, or at least appear very present, answer
Hmm.
questions, smile a lot. And all I was doing was like, you know, like this typing away, and I was doing other work. So I was doing my day job as well as the meetings. And it was when I reflect back on it, you know, it was great to be able to learn how to touch type. It was great to, you know, that people believe that you were engaged on one or two things, whatever they were engaging with you on. And quite often meetings are about the lack of progress about work because you're in so many meetings. And it helped address that, you know, ridiculous kind of catch-22 situation. Um, and yet when I reflect back, I don't think any aspect of that work was getting the whole of me, but it's also
Hmm.
because I underestimated that. Like underestimated myself. I created a machine. I created the John Binnie that people feared because I was so productive, right? And they were like, "You just do so much," and then they would, by leading by example like that, and the teams that I managed and the
Hmm.
managers I managed, they would see me and my throughput and feel like, "Well, how does he write so many docs so fast? How does he, you know, prepare for these meetings? How does he review other people's work so fast? I must do that as well." And you know,
Hmm.
so it cascades. And it was very much a reality of my doing, of my making. And I remember my work-life balance included things like typically exhaustion in the evening.
Hmm.
And then Fridays we started in recent years, started to try and go camping, and we would be going late, about 8 at night, my wife would be phoning the campsite saying, "Look, we'll be a late arrival." I'd be fumbling around in the cold darkness in Scotland.
Hmm.
And then just recovering at the weekend, just sleeping through it, largely. And it it seemed like, in some respects, it just seemed like the only solution was to be a hamster on the wheel and go even faster. Maybe I could be two
Hmm.
hamsters on two wheels.
Yeah.
That was literally my mindset.
Yeah, I think with all that AI work that you did, you must have downloaded some spiritual program in there to help you create all those documents and all those meetings in there somewhere. No, it is quite impressive in seeing the way you work, and it's awesome because it's created now that you're using it in a different way that is more balanced as well, right? So it's quite beautiful to see, and it's like, wow, that's impressive. I was like, I wonder how he manages his day. It's like, wow. No, but it's incredible, and you're right. I also came through that, and on the opposite side of that is that if you already have that within you, let's just say if we're already workaholics, when we do what we love, the other side, it doesn't feel like work. So I'm finding it now that I've been in a couple of years into doing this myself, is that it's like, but it's work. I love doing it. It doesn't feel like work. It's like play. So now I find myself, I'm the opposite now. I'm like you used to be. A lot of my clients are based in Canada and the US. So my time starts coming in at about, between 1 and 9 p.m. I try not to work. It's only for very special occasions that I work until 9. Um, but yeah, I have a couple of days that I book my clients back to back, and then it allows me to have that fun and that adaptability in my schedule. But even when I worked in corporate, it wasn't one of those things that, and this was something that was incredible in one of the directors that we worked with, and he taught me that he would go home every day at 5 o'clock. It like 5 o'clock, he would go home and I'd be like, oh my goodness, he's a director. Like, I was so used to coming from South Africa where you have to, this is like the pressure, like to survive in that work culture is a lot. And I'd be like, oh. And then I'd be like, what do you do? Like, why do you leave at 5 o'clock? And he
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm going home because I have 3 young children and this is time that I spend with them, and then and my wife, and then I come on afterwards after they've gone to bed. And that was such a good example for me in that bringing in that balance. um and I've always kept that in that sense. So even now that I'm able to manage my own schedule, I try and make sure that I have that time in the morning and at least dinner time where we would sit around the table, to be able to have that connection into that balance as well. And then I also try not work on the weekends too, unless I'm giving some sort of training. But there's always that catching in time, that stepping in and connecting in and being present, like you say, because a lot of the times we've got so many things going on in our heads that we're not actually being present, which is, I'm trying to be more mindful of that, because sometimes we have so much conditioning that we need to schedule. And sometimes I find myself still overscheduling myself, and I'm like, no, rein it in again. Like less is more, sometimes. And I find that being agile, it's almost kind of like, it reminds me of, being a surfer, waiting for that wave to see, so that when that ideal wave comes in, that we're able to take advantage of that and move in. And it's created a lot of opportunities where I've been like, hey, I'm sitting in with elders, at this time, do you want to come in? You could be invited to that. And I can say, oh yeah, I can. I have that enough of that flexibility to be able to bring that in. And I think by leaving that a little bit open, it actually calls forward opportunities to be able to do things in a different way. Um, I think it also increases productivity in one way, and it allows us to adapt to market changes. I mean, our lives change very quickly all the time in yeah, into looking for those kind of like, what is the customer demand right now, and what are the demands of my family. And I think we used to prioritize work, whereas now I'm bringing that into balance as well between family and work at the same time. So it's absolutely important. And my kids are a little bit older, so it's a little bit more flexible in that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
always prioritize, like, I tend not to book anything around dinner time or breakfast time. I'll get up at 4, I'll do a session at 4:30 in the morning because of the
Wow.
time difference, but I'll be there for breakfast at least
Yeah.
if I need to be. Actually, I take that back. I used to do sessions at 4:30 in the morning. I'm not doing them
Not
anymore.
anymore. Done. Yeah. We're done. Um, I just I was frustrated before I left my corporate job, and I was a little bit angry at the universe. It's like, why aren't I leaving earlier? Why haven't I set up my own business yet? And it
Mhm.
was, you can only like blame yourself, right? And it felt like, but it just the circumstances didn't seem right. But I knew that it went on for long enough, maybe a period of maybe 3 or 4 months, where there was something within me that was holding me back. That it was me. Clearly, it was me. It was
Yeah.
I was in a job and I knew I was going to leave, but it was like it was the when and how and what did I need to prepare for. And whenever I was in meditation, whenever I was like seeking, guidance, I was always like, there's this message of like, John, you're preparing your ship, and I'm like, what for? And it's like they're saying there's a storm out there. Do you know what that storm is? I'm like, busy. I don't know. And the storm was me. The storm was me, like
Mm.
going from, although I'd turned part-time for 2 years, I was
Mhm.
3 days a week working 40 hours, and it's like I would just literally gone in and repeated that. And why? Because it came from a fear mentality of,
Mm.
lack of self-love, lack of boundaries, there's a long list of things that I hadn't prepared for. So I started doing some work on that, and I started to think more about my self-love. I thought, okay, what am I really doing? Like, how would I love myself after this event? How would I stop myself just burning out again, because it doesn't really matter where you go, which company you work for, or whether you run your own business, still you. In fact, in a
Mhm.
business that you're running yourself, your business is you. So you're like, oh,
Mm.
literally my lack would just manifest into this, explode into this bigger opportunity. Um, and so when I left, I started to like I wrote my little Jon Binnie's future vision, and I decided what I wanted to do in my dream life and my dream business. And I came up with it includes camping most weekends. It includes
Mhm.
family time. It includes quality time with my wife. It includes following my passions of
Mhm.
fun things like skateboarding through to electrics in my camper van, whatever I'm doing. And my business side, I wanted to include some flexibility, and I also wanted like a path to the to balance, like where I can help serve others in this planet and help others without burning myself out. And it's even higher, I would argue, higher risk in any kind of like
Mhm.
therapy or practicing work where you're serving others because you're so close to your own energy and you giving others your energy. Um, so anyway, my business got started, and for the first 4 or 5 months, and I do this very naked, like and raw monthly reflection, which I
Mhm.
I kind of mixed feelings about excitement and fear when I do it because I'm like I'm just telling literally the world how I'm feeling about my business. And
Mhm.
although I don't talk about the numbers, I talk about like percentage increases or drops in sales. And just in October, I had this drop in my sales, and it's like, but they've always gone up since I started. And I remember I even like bought this microphone and a little mixing desk for so that I could do this mobile. And what happened was uh, this opportunity came up where I could go and speak on someone's channel, and I just remember knowing that I was preparing for something, that there was,
Mhm.
and what I didn't know just before that kind of step forwards was that many of the problems I was facing were really a scaling problem.
Mm.
And if you asked me when I had almost no sales in a week, or I was sat there in a wellness center nearby with no one coming in that day, if someone came in the door and said, "John, good news, I found out the main problem." I'm like, what? Scaling. You can't scale to all your customers. And I'm like, but like there's no one here. Like it's like I'm literally turning up and they're not even coming in the door. And that's not the point, right? That I mean it's a part of it. Like I did know that
Mhm.
showing up helped. I did know that I
Yeah.
needed to be there. I needed to advertise it, do the songs and the John Binnie dances, whatever, and say, "Hey, everyone, like come along, and I'll provide these services like reflexology and quantum healing." And but when it did happen, so I when I went on this show, uh, I remember feeling this incredibly strong guidance, which was immediately just after I'd finished the recording, because I didn't know when it was going to be posted on this larger YouTube channel. Um, my son was asking me, it's like, oh, can you help me with the homework? And now he is 15, and although it was like 9 o'clock,
Mhm.
I knew that he could wait 15 minutes. And I said, I just need to update my working hours in my bookable working hours because I need to just limit that. I need to like
Mhm.
have a balance. And I'm so glad I did. Like I set for no more than 3 sessions a day, and just chose the slots and
Mhm.
tested it. And that's a big thing,
Yeah.
right? Go and test your website, make sure that's literally what people will experience. And then this flood of bookings came in, and within days I was booked out till what is now we're just a week later, and I'm people are booking me in May next year.
Yay, that's
Yay!
exciting.
Woohoo! And if you're watching, thank you so much for your bookings. But the immediate problems that I faced were things like people didn't understand the time zone, well, because
Mm.
it was like it was saying the right time zone for people in the US and Canada and other countries. There's bookings from around Europe
Mhm.
and Australia. But one of the things it didn't do was it didn't show AM or PM. It was in 24-hour format, which many people don't
Okay.
understand.
Okay.
And as And the geek in me was like, oh, come on. It's like, it's 24-hour clock. But then I was realizing, yeah, but that's not how the world sees your work, John. And they need to
Yeah.
see that it's like the most common thing that everyone can understand with a 12-hour
Hmm.
format, AM and PM. And although it's one example, the effect that that had, you know, that might be okay for you in your business when you've got 1 in 10 bookings moans at you and says, oh, by the way, you know, there's a
Hmm.
problem here. And that's fine when you're just doing 10 bookings maybe in a month. But then when you go to 150 plus, you're waking up to a long list of emails and they're saying, I don't get it. Or they're not
Yeah.
emailing you and they're just, you know, bouncing
Yeah.
off and doing something else. And or booking you and at a complete, you know, a complete wrong time.
Mm.
And it it seems like such a funny thing to share, but when I reflect back on the opportunity I had in a quieter month of October, that was my time for preparing.
Hmm.
I was gifted that, right? And
Yeah.
I spent a lot of effort keeping out of lack mindset. I still kept my work-life balance. I would argue I did maybe a bit, you know, in hindsight, less marketing would have been fine because, you know, don't
Hmm.
like when you have an opportunity for capacity, don't just burn it all out on marketing. You're going like,
Hmm.
oh help, I need more bookings. Like, well,
Yeah.
what if it does happen? Are you really, really ready? Can you test it?
Yeah.
Can you try it out yourself or get a friend to
Hmm.
check it? And what do you believe you want your life to look like after you scale? Because that's another
Hmm.
scaling problem in our life, right? It's like, but
Hmm.
will you be sustainable?
Absolutely. And I love that is that agility of connecting into your intuition and going, okay, I need to do this. Yeah. And I've always noticed that the same thing with me in those quieter weeks, is that it's like, yeah, what is it giving me an opportunity to do instead, right? What do I need to look at within my business, whether it's planning, whether it's strategizing, whether it is sending out like a little bit more emails, whether it's changing platforms or whatever it may be. It gives you that opening up opportunity to allow you to prepare. And it's like that wave where it kind of like the water kind of like draws back before it comes forward again. So it's like that breath, that taking that deep breath before you exhale into moving into the next area as well, which is, yeah, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, congratulations on that. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And very, very exciting. Uh, yeah, no, it's for me, it is definitely about looking at that space of that, looking at lack and going, okay, so I have these time slots for everybody, and then somebody going, but I can't do that time slot. I need to see you now. And it's kind of like, where are you sacrificing? Because by saying yes to that, you're saying no to something else that, and we need to prioritize in the ways that we need to. And it's quite interesting in how we prioritize as well, because, and this is actually something that I talk about in like the octopus method, is we talk about prioritize used to be singular. We've changed it to priorities now. And it's like we're just so split everywhere. We don't know where to begin.
Mhm.
Um, and it's yeah, looking at, I've never used to see it as it was like, no, 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 I have to do this. But now it's like, okay, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? Because I could have a kid that's sitting there going, Mom, I just want to go for a drive and I just want to hang out, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's looking at that. It's kind of like it's trying to find the balance of your time. And I think I've spoken about this before in the sense of like, if we get like 50 joules of energy in one day, where are we spending that? And once it's gone,
Yeah.
it's gone. And how are we focusing on that? And talking about scaling is, the same as like, you need to be of service. But how can I be of service? And it's absolutely opening up on a grander way, grander scale. And it is a bit scary sometimes, and putting yourself
Yeah.
out there and going, people will see me. What if I say something wrong or whatever it
That's
may
so true.
be? But it's, yeah, really sitting into that authenticity, because in what we do, and anything is in any industry, it's your energy that attracts the person. It's your it's who you are as an essence that really, really draws forward your clients, your suppliers, your teams. It's absolutely imperative to find people that are in alignment with you
Yeah,
and what you're doing.
definitely. I feel some of the techniques that helped me, one was I do a lot of like, well, for me it's very public journaling.
Yeah.
I love the idea that people can just see me working through my fears. I feel that
Hmm.
adds to credibility, but I want to lead by example. Like I'd love to see more people in the world just, go for a walk with their dog or out in nature or whatever and just tell the world about,
Hmm.
their shadows and their fears and the things that they're working through. Because I think it gives earns a lot of trust, and it gives, others permission to share, to encourages them to share as well. Um, the other thing I felt was really important for me was I began like in that self-love practice. Like it's who like it's so hard, self-love. Like why is it so hard? It's so easy to love others, right? It's like, well, I love my wife,
Mm.
I love my family, and I can just literally just see them and I love them. And then that thing when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who's the 47-year-old? Oh, it's John. Hey, John. And it used to be, I used to just go, I'm just so old and tired all the time. Like, what's wrong with this guy?
Mhm.
Come on, drink some more coffee, do some more exercise. And now I do spend more time. It's a journey, right? But
Mhm.
I'm like, hey, John, are you enjoying this dream life you're creating? Well done for whatever it is I did today.
Yeah.
And like those nurturing, cultivating practices, and including in my schedule. Like I never really knew. I think I dreamed of when I worked in corporate jobs and office jobs that there could be more flexibility. That maybe you
Hmm.
do a client session and then you step out for 2 hours. Like yesterday,
Yeah.
I went for a 2 hour lunch and a walk with my wife, and
Hmm.
in between client sessions, it felt so lovely. It felt like it helped when I turned up at the second client session because they got a version of me that was relaxed and calm and felt loved and supported by my family, and I just had a really nice experience. And and I reflected on, wow, what I've been doing for the last 26 years, where it's like just back to back, just work, 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 work. um and I also, like many people,
Hmm.
reflect a lot on the law of manifestation, like The Secret, and all these things that have been out for a while in in the in our cultures.
Yeah.
And what I there's I always feel like I'm learning, right? And one thing I learned over the last few weeks was I often love this idea that you place your order with the universe and you're in a restaurant, right? And the universe is a waiter. And so so what I do is every time I ordered something, I'd say, I want, it says here, I'd like to have my own company, please. I'll have one of those. And so the waiter goes off and comes back. Now, unfortunately for us, the waiter's like really intelligent. And just before he's kind of watching from the side, he's like, is John ready? Or is he still like staring at the menu? Because if he's still staring at the menu and thinking about other things,
Mm.
maybe now's not the right time for his business. And you're like
Excuse
this,
me.
you're like, Garçon, please, my business, please. And they're like, with you in a month. Um,
Yeah.
and and then when I started on that journey, and I'd had quite a few conversations with you about it, Natasha, which was
Mhm.
I didn't quite get the capacity side, like creating what is effectively spare capacity. And it feels so funny to say it. And yet
Yeah.
there's so many aspects of our lives, excuse me, where we create capacity, but we this is obviously something that needs to come out. Um, it's the capacity in our lives to be able to, for instance, receive client bookings.
Yeah.
It needs to be an actual space in your calendar. Because what happens is you say, waiter, I would like, now that I've got a company, I would like to have 100 customers, please. The waiter's like, I'm just gonna double check his calendar, and it takes a look, and it's
Mm.
like, you know, it's 10 hours in a day of update the spelling mistakes on website, do some marketing for a service I'm not entirely sure about, and spend time fixing my computer, and you're like, and then the waiter like completely lost the plot about what it is you think you're actually trying to do, and just say,
Mm.
just seems too busy. It's like busy, busy
Mm.
bee. Like what are you being busy about? And and I'm the moment I literally put in my calendar like these slots for clients, and
Mm.
you'd suggested it. Uh, I just they just filled like within
Mhm.
almost within
Yeah.
minutes. There's people booking within 15 minutes and an hour, and it's that to us it feels like magic, right? Like how is that even
Yeah.
possible? Where do these people come from? And that's the hard work that the universe is doing to help you, right? And it's so tempting to feel that the universe is just it's out to get you. It's going to destroy you. You know, it's like some horror movie where, you know, you step out your house in the morning and, you know, plane crashes on your head. Like, whilst these things are possible, they're highly improbable. What's more likely is that you're going to have a better day, especially if you just invest a bit more in your self-love.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I those time slots for me, that really worked for me as well when I was guided to do that. But speaking about the universe, like the universe is always saying yes. You've got a waiter that always says yes. So whether you step outside and it's going to be doom and gloom, the universe is saying yes. So you're stepping outside and it's going to be expansive, the universe is saying yes, which is incredible. But I love how you do share your vulnerabilities, and especially as a man, I think that's a conditioning that we've been taught not to do. And I think women tend to express themselves a lot easier than men do. And I mean, I'm just being a generalist right now, not necessarily saying anything, but it's yeah, I think that's quite incredible that you're paving the way to giving that allowance and sharing by example. I think that is so important in these days as well, because it's almost like giving permission for people to be able to do that, which is incredible. And it's true because I've had some friends that look at me and they're like, "Oh my God, you look like you've got everything together." And I was like, "No, that's called marketing." Online, that's called marketing. Behind the scenes, I am still working through a lot of my stuff as well. So I love that you're being that transparent as well, and yeah, so sometimes I try as well, and I do a lot of lives. Before I used to kind of like, I need to record it. It needs to be perfect. And I'm like, no, you know what? If I say something that perhaps I could have said better, I can just change it. And I love that we don't edit these because of that, which is of utmost importance too. But it's, yeah, always be sitting in that space of receiving is the other thing that I've noticed as well. So in that, I'm ready to receive all that the universe has to offer. And it's amazing, like you say, that they will create the space. So it's be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it, whatever you're ordering is like absolutely making space for that. So yeah, I still go through kind of like where I find myself kind of having old habits starting to creep in. But it's always kind of, it's such a learning experience as we move through
Yeah.
and decide, and it's the way things are changing as well in the energetic world.
Hmm.
So it's like when I first got into this, I was like, okay, I've meditated, I've visualized, this is the life I want. And it's like a week later, I'm like, where is it? And it was just like, oh my word, but it was just so much that kind of like needs to be structured, needs to like, and you need to make it happen. And the hardest thing has been the releasing from the how,
Hmm.
right? Because that is when we used to planning a project, when we used to planning the how, when we step into that energetic space, it's kind of like, let's see what opportunities show up. It's like saying to that waiter, "Oh, I would like seafood today." And then sitting to waiting to see what kind of, platter shows up for you, kind of a thing. So it's in that allowance, because if we say, I just want a side of this, and you could have missed out on a whole buffet of things. But it's like, stepping into that and actually being conscious about what it is that we're wanting to create becomes quite important. And it's listening to those gut instincts. So for
Yeah.
example, ignoring doing those lives that I've just started doing, and you inviting me onto yours. I think it was the universe going, "Hey, you can do this. Remember, you used to do this in person. Stop ignoring us. Start doing that." And I'm absolutely loving it. I mean, the one that we did with Viviani, I was just so energized after that. And
Yeah.
that's how I started to notice kind of like, what do I enjoy doing? What expands me? And what is kind of like, oh my goodness, I have to get through this. This is
Yeah.
so sluggish, and some things need to happen, um, like taxes and admin, but perhaps you get to the stage where you can outsource those things so that you're doing those things that expand you, because that expands other people as well that enjoy doing that kind of a thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's changing for corporate as well, is really finding out, what people are good at and what they enjoy. So if you have morning people, bring in those people in the morning. If they work from 4 to, I start fading at about 9, like 8, 9 p.m. Like, but I'm really good, like from, 6 till past lunch. So it's like those are my hours of most productivity, most creativity, most expansion. So like that's best advantage where
Yeah.
I have another friend who her time is between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. It's like why not? That's where she's most creative, that's where she's most productive, that's where she excels. So it's like start looking at those things of and that really is, if you look at it from a corporate, that's how you are getting the most of people, is when they're most expanded, when they're creative, when they're kind of like not when they're burnt out, not
Yeah.
when they're stressed, because it's like you say,
It's the opposite. Yeah.
the opposite of that, where I know so many CEOs that have had heart attacks and they just kind of like at their desk after all of that. And it's like nobody ever in an obituary said, oh, Joe Soap said that they wish they'd worked more. Like, no, like there's like looking at that from that perspective, I don't think life's short.
Yeah, I agree. And little did I know that I think I maybe suspected, but I didn't realize that leaving a highly stressful risk of burnout corporate job into a running your own business is like even higher risk. It's like even more stressful in so many respects if you allow it. And I just so this morning I was just writing I was taking part of one of my training courses and creating what I'm calling like receiving your dream life and dream business. And it
Hmm.
was so funny because it's not how it started. I didn't write it like that. I started calling it creating your dream life and dream business. And I quickly realized what I was writing. And all I was writing
Mm.
was about look after your self-care first. Raise your
Hmm.
vibration, follow your joy. And sometimes you have to see that in yourself, reflected in yourself before you accept that it's true. And when
Absolutely.
when I found myself on a, suddenly on a larger YouTube channel doing a like a podcast, that I felt it at the time, and when I watched it back, I was like, "Who is that version of me?" Like I've clearly been cultivating that for like decades, and
Hmm.
I've never seen that version of John Binnie before, and yet I felt so much joy. It felt so easy. It felt whole. It felt like there was nothing like I would have spoken dragon-like language and spoken to trees or whatever that was more woo-woo. There was nothing felt restrained for me,
Hmm.
and yet it was very grounded. And I remember afterwards realizing what I've been doing is raising my vibration, raising my self-love and self-care, like upping my game so that I can be this best version of myself. And that's what I want my customers to receive. And I want
Yeah.
the customers to be the right customers to be attracted to someone that they see on that journey. And
Hmm.
none of that's pushing. It's all receiving. You can't
Absolutely.
you can't say to your partner, "Could you love me more?" Go on, just maybe 10%. That'd be great, because last year felt like it was a little bit low. And yet, we
Yeah.
say the same things for pay rises. Um, and you touched on scheduling, and one thing I wanted to do, I don't know if this will work. I wanted to just briefly like ruin the illusion of where I am. So I'm actually in my camper van, um, and we're having house renovations done just now. And so I'm out. Like I can't. It's like banging and all kinds of sawing and noises going on, so I can't be in the house. When that turned up, when literally the builder said, "Oh, I need to come on Monday," and it was Thursday, and it's like, "Oh, I think I've got like a big YouTube thing going on next week, and oh, I've got all these client bookings, and oh no, what am I going to do?" And then I realized, oh, all I needed to do was buy a mic and a couple of things and bring my backdrop from my studio, and you know, I'm literally parked around the corner from my house, so you can't hear the noise. And
Excuse
it
me.
it was this moment of realizing I think it'd be quite good fun as well. Bless you.
Thank you.
Um, and I also between that and my business taking off and all these other things happened at the same time. Poor Patch, our dog was ill. My son was having challenges with some of his tests, his Nat fives, and needed some extra help. And of course, it all happens at once, right? And as it happened, so the way I work is like it's a bit like it's just a simple text file with a prioritized list of stuff. And I looked at it, and every time I look at it, I always almost have the same feeling, which is I know my mission. I want to help people around the world on their journeys.
Hmm.
And then the second thing is like, okay, does this list of stuff like align with that now that I know what I know and now what's
Yeah.
going on in my life? And when my business changed so fast, almost overnight, I realized I needed to change the business fast as well. So I went in and like disabled a load of the services that people weren't buying. It's just like
Hmm.
I don't even know if I could maintain those, and they're not really interested in
Yeah.
them, and I'm just hiding it. Like I can bring it back
Yeah.
anytime. And I also looked at my schedule and in my calendar, I can't remember what it said, like, go and tweak the imagery on the service. And I was like, why is that important? I've just disabled it. So I'm going to ignore
Hmm.
that stuff. And I looked and it's like, what really matters now? What matters
Yeah.
today? And I just quickly shifted into, responding to people's YouTube comments. It took me almost a day on
Hmm.
Friday, responding to queries about, how my booking system wasn't perfect and that needed a lot of investment. And that shift continues because as we go through these I love how you're
Hmm.
describing like a wave, as the wave rises and then comes down again. It's like,
Yeah.
so we've shown you something, John, and
Yeah.
you've experienced it and reflected on it. What does it mean for all this stuff you do? And I love the fact that my list is just short because I used to just block book
Yeah.
my calendar with stuff to do, and now all I do is there's some things that are time critical that are there, and they're
Hmm.
often just like meet once a month with my finance person, or I also have my calendar, uh, you know, uh, take my wife for lunch. So there's always like I know I
Hmm.
can't get booked in that time, the non-negotiables and the start and the
Yeah.
end of the day. And then the
Hmm.
rest, I really just look at what's coming in at the time as
Yeah.
well as my list and say, well, what feels right and what feels
Yeah.
fun, fabulous, and flow and joyful. Because if you're not following your joy, like why are you doing it?
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's so true as well. So I love that flexibility, and it's like you say, especially in the work that we do, because it's very, and I would argue that all work is energy sensitive in
Mm,
in that sense, and it's like really being at that space where we're able to be of service completely ourselves, right? Which allows, preparing for that. It's sleep, it's meditation, or whatever it is, yoga, walking in nature. And I love that I'm able to say, oh, I've got 3 hours where I was planning admin, but the sun is shining, the weather is great. I've just had this podcast, yeah, and I'm just going to go and just going to go expand and integrate that. And I think when we overschedule ourselves, it doesn't give us the opportunity to integrate the knowledge, to integrate the lessons, to 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 and integration is so important in the sense of allowing that energy to settle in from that, because otherwise we keep drawing towards us the same um opportunities to learn if we don't learn them all or absolutely
mhm,
breathe into that. So it's almost like looking at a project and going, what worked well, what could have worked better, and it's taking that time to reflect on, finishing those projects, finishing those tasks, finishing kind of like, okay, so we've just finished this podcast. How did it go? Reflect what went well, what could do better, or what could we add on to that? What expands us? But I think when we overschedule ourselves, it's it doesn't give you the opportunity to sit and breathe and calibrate. Okay, this is what we went through. Did that work? Is it in alignment? Is it not? Does it expand me? Does it not? Does it deplete me? And I think a lot of the times we work in that space of empty. And you're right. I have a visceral when I think, okay, oh, I need to run a whole year course on Akashic Records. And I was like, oh, it feels too constrained to me. And I'm like, okay, how do I break this down into bite sizes where it actually expands me? In that sense where I feel like, oh, because it doesn't give that flexibility. And the other thing is that I also noticed is sometimes I get given these opportunities. So um, a few years ago, I had this opportunity to go sit on a retreat with Matt Kahn. And I love his work. I find my work quite aligned with Matt Kahn's work. And I was so excited for this retreat. But it was at that time in Portland where they had those big fires. And, there was a whole bunch of stuff went on. And we had already booked to go. And And I was like, no, I might need to still go to Portland at that time. I was living in Canada, so I'm not going to cancel my flight. In the meanwhile, I'd been speaking to an elder of Six Nations out in Ontario. And she had said to me, you know what, Natasha, she said, look, I've got all these, clearings that you're doing. I need another clearing. And I said to her, I enjoy doing them for you, but how about I teach you how to do them and I can support you whenever you need to? Because I like to empower people in teaching them. She said, and she also did some like deep trauma work as one of her modalities. And I said to her, you know what? Why don't we do a trade? We'll do a knowledge trade. And she said, you know what I do can't be done on Zoom. So I said, it's okay. I'll go out there. No, like no problem. Meanwhile, all of this is happening. And she said, okay, when I have a program, I'll give it to you because I'm also teaching some of the university students how to run a sweat lodge and what is needed and all the rest of that. And so I said, okay, no problem. And anyway, we forgot about that for like a month or two. So Portland fires everything. I'm supposed to be going out to Portland onto this retreat. Haven't canceled it. The retreat has canceled. And what happens is she sends me at 9 p.m. my time a list of the schedule of what's happening. And she's like, if you can make it, you can make it. If you can't, you can't. That's okay. We'll sort it out. Do you know that the next day, the company canceled my flights for me? I didn't cancel them. So I phoned them up and I said, hey, I see you canceled my flights to Portland. And then I said, how about I just change the destination? Would that work? And it was exactly the same dates that I was supposed to go to
Wow.
Portland was the space. And I met the most amazing people. When I was out there, I did the most amazing. I mean, they had three elders come to teach, which never really happens. I had my first sweat experience, and I learned so much in that weekend. But not only that, not only did I have spiritual growth, but I also had a lot of business opportunities came out for that in order to be of service as well.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't go with that intention. I just went into that intention of like, what is showing up for me? This is what I'm feeling strongly excited to go and do.
Yeah.
Flexible enough to shift the direction. Everything fell into place. And a lot of those relationships are still very, very strong today. And I'm still working
Yeah.
with a lot of people. And it's quite interesting because I was speaking to another friend of mine and they would have been like, why are you going? What is the return on investment? How long are you going for? Have you noticed what you've lost out on? And it's like that I find quite different in this world of working with energy and asking that waiter, hey, I want to be of service in a bigger on a bigger scale, and these opportunities showing up, but it's responding with them, I suppose, with your heart as well as, with your head, and yeah, it's really following that gut instinct and that intuition because you never know what might come up. But I found the biggest thing of moving and starting my own business was a change of perspective on how energy works and really, really, okay, I don't know why I'm guided. This is opportunity that's shown up for me. I need to go and really throwing
Wow.
yourself out there. So yeah, ever since then, it's been kind of like, no, if it feels right, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I oh, that's just such an incredible journey. Thank you for sharing that. I love it, especially the times. Like I can just imagine your reaction. You're like, the flights are cancelled. Can't there's something
Yeah,
in this. There's something. There's an
yeah.
opportunity. Um, yeah,
Well, my
I have
yeah.
no project plan at all.
Mhm.
And I remember just before I left my last company, I was talking to a senior program manager who ran teams of project managers. And I said, I have no plan. I have a vision and I have a way of working towards that vision. But it's
Yeah,
very much just about receiving and experiencing and exploring to deliver for my customers. And
yeah.
to my shock, the program manager said, I think that's a great idea. And it's
Mhm.
only now that I realize that plans, if you want to do it, like knock yourself out, but be aware that integration is one of the most important things that you'll ever do.
Mm.
It's just like our client sessions attached. It's like
Yeah,
if our client sits there and ignores the whole thing, even though they're like, yeah, oh, that's lovely. Oh, I'm really enjoying that. And then at the end, they've absorbed nothing. Then it's just like we never did anything. Like there was like we never
hmm
met. And I'd say it increasingly now at the end of my client sessions, please go off, watch the recording, go for a walk, just reflect
hmm
on it, and you decide yourself, you discern what you learned from that session. And the reflection in my life is that to be able to absorb what's going on outside in nature, in our lives, that's constantly changing in the world, what's changing within us,
Mhm.
it needs to be integrated. It needs to be absorbed into us and go, oh yeah, like no one uses money anymore. We barter. Like there'd be a
Yeah.
significant change to integrate. Like, what does it mean for me in my business?
Hmm.
How do I feel? How do I follow my joy? And a plan restricts you, right? It says, no, no. It says no to all those other things, and it says just this thing we decided
Yeah.
months or years ago. Um, well,
Yeah,
I
I
better
think
get on
that's
with
how
our
we,
meditation.
but yeah, absolutely. But just on another note to that, I think by structuring
Of
ourselves so
course.
tightly, we create those glass ceilings. We create those limitations because it could be
Yeah,
that or something better. And that's what I started to notice for sure.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was similar with my training courses. I gave myself a break for December and half of January. And
Yeah.
what's the first thing I did? Create someone asked, two people asked me yesterday for a training module. And it's like, I love that idea. I've already written the material. I just need to wrap it up
Yeah.
and deliver it in a few hours. I could do it whenever I want. And I was like, ah, that capacity,
Yeah.
John, it created this
Okay.
opportunity for you.
Beautiful. Love it.
Great. Well, we shall do a mindful meditation, magically inspired by our conversation. Um,
Yes.
and so we'll do this for a few minutes if you'd like to join me and just begin by taking in 3 deep breaths in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth nice and loud. Breathe in through the nose and release any low vibration energy or emotion nice and loud. And breathe in through the nose once more and just release nice and loud. And feel your body bring your awareness out to every aspect of your being, out to your fingertips, to your toes, from the base of your spine to the tip of your head. And I'd like you to bring your focus towards your heart and just into gently the center of your heart, just bringing awareness to human heart beating. And this place where you cultivate and grow your self love, perhaps it's the perfect moment to place a hand on your heart and just take a moment to tell yourself that you love yourself. I love you. And allow your heart and your body to respond. Perhaps your heart may say, just like mine, it's been a little while since you last said, I love you. And it's always the perfect time to extend love and loving kindness to ourselves. And continue to hold this feeling in your heart of self love. It is a gift that you can give to yourself anytime and a gift that only you can give to yourself. It's all within you. It's always there. And I encourage you each morning or at any time in the day to place your hand on your heart and tell yourself you love yourself. And with this love inside of you, draw your attention now outside of you. And you can practice this in this moment, looking around you, even if your eyes are closed. Are you in your home, in your office, in your car or a safe space, somewhere in public or in nature, wherever you are, holding that feeling of self love in your heart? Does the environment you find yourself in cultivate your self love? Does it help nurture you? Does it help you step into your joy? Does it bring you the freedom and this fabulous flow that you seek in your life? And it's not that you need to take action on it right now. It's simply to bring awareness to your environment that you're in. So much about love is simply by seeing the sending and receiving. And now turn your focus to your work, what you consider to be your work in your life. It might not be a paid job. You might be looking after children or family or friends or neighbors. It may be a career where you're working long hours and pushing yourself hard every day. Again, reminding you of this loving feeling in your heart, that self love that you're cultivating, that you're helping grow each day. Do these places that you work, to the things that you do, and the people you help, to all these aspects of your work help cultivate your self love? And begin to see the connection between your total capacity to be able to do your work throughout your busy working day. That total capacity is dictated by your self love, your self care, your health. For when we are tired and when we are burnt out, we cannot serve, we cannot do our work well. And now stepping forwards a little bit in time, imagining perhaps in a few days and weeks or months of you telling yourself that you love yourself and cultivating your self love, following the things that you love, making time each week for the things that you love to do, holding that feeling in your heart of how that feels to have a more balanced life where you truly feel comfortable and you have only small amounts of time or little or none devoted to self negative talk or doubt or fear. And instead, you're able to reflect and enjoy and receive your own self love. Allow yourself to see yourself in your business, perhaps in a month's time, the work that you do, seeing a version of you that is filled with that self love. In a month's time, you're able to open up your heart, to open up your solar plexus, your gut, just like we do when we eat food and absorb all the beautiful nutrients that we bring into our bodies, that you open yourself up and allow yourself to receive all that this universe is trying to give you. But so far, you've been too closed because you've been too lacking in love for yourself and allowing others to constantly step over your boundaries. And you let that simply release and fade away, releasing it to the ground, releasing it to the sky, releasing it out of your body. Any of that negative self talk, any of that negative self doubt, and allowing yourself to feel that self love. This version of you, you're feeling it now, you're creating it now. That version of you in 1 month's time will look back at this moment and celebrate that moment that you're able, even just a little bit, just for a few seconds more each day, to hold your self love and open yourself up. You will receive in this capacity of your heart, your solar plexus, your gut, your whole body, to receive more than you could ever imagine, more abundance. And it's all waiting for you to simply build this capacity through your self love. Allow this, dear soul, allow this. And when you finish this meditation, perhaps when you wake up tomorrow and you face the same challenges you face each day, place your hand on your heart tell yourself you love yourself, and perhaps ask a very tough question, which is, what is it that I'm doing today that is blocking me from receiving the abundance of my dream life, of my dream business? And allow the answer to come into your heart. Continuing to hold this feeling of self love in your heart, allow yourself now to come back to this moment, back to your body, and you can open your eyes and move around again if you choose. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you. I was there. I was there. I saw that version of me in a month.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that we can always love ourselves more, right? There's always more capacity. It's quite incredible.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, thank you, Natasha. It was a
Thank
lot
you,
of fun.
Jon.
And if it's it's 11:11 here. If you made it all the way to podcast to the end, then maybe you'd be interested in coming on as a guest. We're always looking for guests that would like to discuss some of these topics and your experiences and share your journey. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. There's always links in the description about how to contact us. And yeah, we look forward to sharing more on our journeys. So thank you so much, Natasha. And
Thank
we'll
you, Jon.
end our recording of that. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you,
See you soon.
everybody.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.